So the PSP released all the way back in 2005, and now this year it is 20 years old. And I guess better late than never, right, to pick one up? Growing up, I was a Nintendo DS kid through and through. In 2004, I got the original clamshell DS and fell in love with Super Mario 64. I got stuck with the DS line religiously, only the DS Lite, the DSi, and eventually a gorgeous new 3DS XL. This is the Hyrule edition, and honestly, it's one of my favourite things I have in my collection. But because of that dedication, I completely missed out on the PSP. I later got a PS Vita, but that meant for me there was no UMDs, no Daxter, no God of War Chains of Olympus, no Patapon. And whilst my friends have had one, I only really remember playing FIFA on one about 15 years ago maybe. So why should you buy one in 2025? Well, it's not exactly a black and white yes or no answer. Reason one being that the PS Vita exists. With this later release of the handheld supporting digital PSP games, it natively plays a large portion of the PSP library, although that doesn't mean all of them. And it also supports PS1 classics with save states, better resolution, and dual analog controls. There's also a way to unlock the PS Vita to do so much more and basically play the entire PSP library. I'd love to explore this in a future video too if this one is well received. The second reason, and this is more of a recent one, is that PSP games are being ported to PS5. Sony has been porting a selection of PSP and PS2 titles to the PS4 and PS5 via PlayStation Plus or as standalone purchases. These updated versions often come with trophy support and improved controls. For example, Daxter, Killzone Liberation, and LEGO Star Wars 2 The Original Trilogy are all available digitally with enhancements. So again, if you're looking for a convenience and maybe the more modern experience, that route could be appealing. Once you've decided if you actually want the console in the first place, you then need to decide which model to buy, and there's quite a few to choose from. The first PSP, the PSP 1000, is also known as the Fat model and is the first model released in 2004. It's by far the cheapest option, but also the most outdated. To be honest, unless you're collecting all systems, it's probably not really worth picking up. The PSP 2000 and 3000 are pretty similar, as they have a lot more RAM, meaning faster loading times, with improved screens. And the 3000 only just edges in a few departments. There's also the PSP Go and the PSP Street, which was a cheaper stripped back model. They had interesting cool designs, but the PSP Go basically lost the UMD drive and is kind of useless now without being modded, given that the PSP online store is now defunct. To me, part of the charm is getting these little UMD discs. I think it's a really cool technology. You can expect to pay about £3 to £8 for common titles, with some having some extra value. My advice would be to pick up the games you want now whilst they're cheap. They can't really go much lower, and I think they'll only go up. But with all that out the way, let's look at the PSP I picked up. Now, this device itself isn't 20 years old. This is the 3000 model in vibrant blue, and I mean, it's a beauty. It's in great condition. I picked this up on Facebook Marketplace for a mean £115 with a bunch of games. Now, some of these games I'm planning on keeping and some I'm planning on selling. At the moment, I'm a bit unsure which ones I'm doing which with, but also the PSP is like extremely easy to mod nowadays. Now, with the games that came in the bundle of the console, I've sort of sorted them into two piles. This pile is games that I'd like to keep, although I'm not a big fan of these platinum cases. So what I'm thinking, oh, there goes the PSP. What I'm thinking is if these come into CEX, I'm going to buy them again and then swap and trade back in the platinum cases. That'll be like a long-term thing. iPet isn't really worth much, so it's not exactly worth trading in. And these cases, the PSP Essential cases, God, they're ugly. I mean, what were they thinking, right? These look awful. Now, I have actually sold these 3 games on Vinted already for a sum of £9. So, The Sims 2 isn't exactly worth much. The most expensive game here is Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. I'm not a big Monster Hunter fan anyway. I will check it out, but you know what? It's good to get some money back for the money I spent on this. And that leaves these 2 games here. Now, Kingdom Hearts, I was umming and ahhing about. It goes for about £15 at CEX. This one's in really good nick, and I'm now convinced to keep it, just for value's sake. It's not really going to go down. It's probably only going to go up. So that's actually moved over to this pile here. This one, however, this is the big hitter. This is worth £38 at CEX. Now, they only give you £15 voucher trade-in. I mean, that's not great for the game, especially when they're selling it themselves for 38. What I've seen though on eBay is it seems to be going about the 50-60 mark. So I'm going to try sell this privately for about 50-60 and see if I can get some money back on this. If I can, that basically pays for half of the console and the games. Now, whilst I was at CX, I had a browse and I thought some of these games looked pretty good. so I picked up some more, and here they are. So we have Need for Speed Most Wanted. This is the version 510. As some of you may know, Need for Speed Most Wanted on the Xbox 360 is worth like 50 quid. It's worth a fortune. This version's only worth 8, but I feel like it's probably, if I was to pick up a Need for Speed game for the PSP, it's probably the best one to pick up for now. Super Monkey Ball was only £3.50, but Super Monkey Ball is always good fun. Now this is available on other platforms, and I was a big fan of Super Monkey Ball on the GameCube growing up. I never actually played this one though, so playing it on the PSP, I feel like it'd be quite enjoyable. This next one is actually one that was released on the PS5 in the last year through the Classics collection, and that is Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. Now, Jak and Daxter fans know this isn't supposed to be a good entry into the series, but it was only £5 and I feel like it was a good idea to pick up. And next we have a PSP exclusive Call of Duty, Roads to Victory. Now I don't know a lot about this game, it looks quite good. I'm interested to play it and just see how much it pushes the PSP to its capabilities. And finally, the last one I picked up was WRC World Rally Championship. Again, it's Sony published and it's a staple of PlayStation gaming, so I thought I'd just pick it up. Again, only a couple quid. And that's one thing about this console, the games are extremely cheap. And so here we have it. This is my new keep, sell, and new pickups pile. These are the games I'm going to keep. These have already sold and this is listed. And these are my new purchases. And with that, it's time to mod the PSP. Now with modding this thing, it's kind of a weird one. It kind of negates the needs to buy all these physical games, as you can basically just kind of download every game you want for free. But I don't know, the collector in me still likes to own these things physically anyway. Modding this thing is like extremely simple. All you have to do is copy a file over to a USB drive, load it on the PSP, and that's it basically. You're then able to copy over any games you want through an ISO, and it's a simple case of just pressing play. And there you go, there's Ridge Racer on the PSP. With my console modded, I tested out some of the games. Outrun being the one I really wanted to try, and honestly, this game is awesome. I own this on the PS2 as well, and this version is basically the exact same, with obviously just a few graphical drawbacks. It plays great, and having one of my favourite racers available to play in your pocket is an awesome feeling. As some of you may know, I'm also a huge Star Wars fan. So what about The Force Unleashed? Well, I tried to play the first level, but it just seemed like it was a bit messy and unresponsive. Too much input delay and low frame rate made it kind of a rough time. Especially when this game is already available on like multiple other platforms, it's kind of not really worth it on the PSP. There's also another game I used to love called Diner Dash. It's a very simple concept as you basically just work in a diner and have to wait tables in a very quick fashion. Dave the Diver has a very similar style when you're working in the restaurant in that game. But unfortunately, no matter what I did, it just wouldn't load. And that's a case of a game I'll have to pick up physically. For me, modding the PSP is great for trying out games that are either too expensive, such as the Silent Hill games, or ones I'm a little bit unsure about and want to test out before biting the bullet to own them. I'd definitely say for most, this is a great way to enjoy the system. So with that, is it worth buying and modding a PSP in 2025? Well, if you're looking for convenience, the PS Vita is probably the best all round. But if you love collecting and want to experience the original hardware, then absolutely yes. I think if you can get a good deal on the system like I did, then definitely pick one up and give it a try.